Anyway, welcome to my how-to series. Welcome to my how-to series of my China vlog. Today we're going to talk about how to learn Chinese. That is probably one of my most asked questions. How do you learn Chinese? I'm going to preface this with just something I noticed. So why don't you come at me, bro? Come at me, you freaking bus. Anyway, I'm going to preface this with a anecdote of some friends I had back home, and some people I knew back home, that claimed that they spoke different languages. I was always very, very, very jealous of these people because pretty much my whole life I wanted to be able to speak other languages. It was always something I was very interested in. I actually taught myself a language fairly proficiently over the course of 4 years, and that language is Finnish, actually. Minor celebrity in Finland, actually. If you look me up on YouTube, Matt999Thai, you'll see that I have become somewhat famous in Finland, country of 5 million people. Over 1 million people have seen my Finnish swearing videos, which are me just making up my own phrases and swearing in the Finnish language, which was very interesting for the local Finns. But anyway, there was people in my hometown, in my school, that said that they had studied and had learned Spanish and a multitude of other languages, German and stuff. But the difference is learning a language and actually learning a language. What do I mean by that? Well, learning a language is not simply cracking a book and learning some new words. That is not learning a language. I can assure you that, I promise you that, because of the amount of work that actually goes into studying a language. Man, the traffic is retarded today. Come on. Look at this. There's no light here, there's nothing. What is this? Anyway, gosh, I'd love to be able to talk to you guys about this topic. Anyway, learning a language. People say, how do you learn Chinese? So, before I came to China, I actually didn't know Chinese really at all. And a lot of people think that's a very daring thing to do, because you come into a country, you don't know the language, and what do you do? What do you do? You can't talk to anyone. You can't buy food. You can't freaking ask where the bathroom is, you know? But that is a necessary evil of moving to a new country. Number two, another common misconception is that if you live in a country, you will automatically learn the language just because you're around it. It's called learning by immersion, learning through immersion, total immersion. Now this is also completely false. There are certain languages like Dutch, Danish, and Spanish where you can learn pretty well through immersion, but Chinese is not one of them. You will not learn a lick of Chinese just by being here. It takes a massive amount of study. What do I mean by that? To learn Chinese, you have to put in 8 hours a day for at least a year before you can really get anywhere. When I first came to China, I knew my numbers and I knew how to say hello. That was it. What did I do? Well, I tried a bunch of things. A lot of people use these programs like Rosetta Stone and all these really expensive programs, and I think it gives them a peace of mind because they buy these expensive programs and then they're like, of course I'm going to be forced to learn it now because I spent all that money. Well, let me tell you, that's not how it works. Rosetta Stone is not the correct method. The correct method to learning Chinese is to learn your grammar first. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that. It's a dog meat restaurant. Nobody wants to hear that. Learning grammar is the bane of many people's existence, really. Oh, look at that. Old villages. Learning grammar is the bane of people's existence. They don't want to learn grammar. But I'll tell you why it's important. Chinese is a language that's not going to make any sense to you. Because it's not simply learning hello and then how to say hello. Learning how to say, I want to eat this, and then you know how to say, I know how to eat this, or I want to eat this. You have to learn the structure of the language first. So, grammar. Where can you learn Chinese grammar very easily? Well, I'll tell you what. one of the best tools I've used for grammar is, what the heck is that? One of the best tools that I've learned to use for grammar is Pimsleur's. Pimsleur's Mandarin Chinese. Pimsleur's is a really good program. And a lot of people don't want to use it because it'll take you a good year to get through all 3 levels. Half an hour lesson each. And it's all repetition. Learning through repetition. And learning through real conversations. And nobody wants to put the work into it. You know why? Because at the end of a year, you only learn 500 words. I'll tell you why those 500 words are important though. Number 1, they're very useful words. Number 2, those 500 words are exactly the pieces of grammar that you're going to need to learn. So you get through there, you have your basic grammar. Not only that, you have basic Chinese down. You can get around, you can buy stuff, you can communicate basic conversations about yourself, introductions, things like that, how to order food, etc., etc. Now, that's very important, right? You're living in China, you now know how to get around. After Pimsleur's, Pimsleur's Mandarin 1 will get you through basic stuff. It took me about half a year to get through it. To get all through 3 levels, realistically it could take you about a year, okay? Finish Pimsleur's Mandarin Chinese, and what do? You need to start building your vocab. Programs like Rosetta Stone, that's exactly what they're for, and that's why you shouldn't use them in the beginning. You learn vocab like a child, you're gonna walk around like a caveman. This, I want this, and I is American. You know, you only know certain words, you don't know how to use those words necessarily. This is a gentrification project that they're doing here. It's really nice actually. Anyway, you don't know how to use those words, right? So you need now you have the basic down, you've laid down the groundwork, now you need to start adding vocab. How do you do that? Conversations. Now that you've had basic Chinese down, you can actually start meeting people, right? So say you go to a bar and you meet a girl. From then on, you can pretty much write down everything that she says. And you will be able to go home, translate it, and you will be able to remember most of the stuff that you've learned after practice. Number 2. You should be using ANKI. ANKI is a flashcard program, ANKI, originally invented for Japanese flashcards. You can download pre-made sets, and it's perfect because it uses memory techniques developed by psychologists, right? So now you're using psychologically proven methods for word retention. Do that every day, and keep adding the new words that you've learned. Eventually, you'll start using them in conversation. Number 3, the most important thing is go and use it. Get your base down, spend a year studying vocab and grammar, and go use the language. I can't stress how important that is. You need to go use the language. You need to talk to people all the time. Now this is where total immersion actually comes in handy. If you're in an environment like Beijing or most places in Taiwan, it's tempting to spend a lot of time for an expat community. You're going to want to choose some, if you're dead serious about learning Chinese, you're going to want to choose somewhere where there is literally no foreigners. Now, my first year in China, I can tell you how important this is. My first year in China was spent with basically no foreign people. I was constantly at the bar, constantly meeting people, constantly talking to people in Chinese, just to get my mouth around the words, okay? Very, very important that you do this. Foreign friends can come later in your China experience. 4th most important thing that you're going to want to do is don't worry about the tones necessarily. Don't study them too in depth, but mimic what other people are saying. You'll get it. You'll get it eventually, because Chinese is a tonal language. Tonal language, what do I mean by that? There are tones that dictate different words. For example, the word ma is different than the word ma, is different than the word ma, is different than the word ma. All of these words are completely different. I'm not even joking. They mean completely different things. One of them means to scold, one of them means horse, one of them is a question word. All of these words are completely different. Now, it sounds daunting in the beginning, but eventually you'll learn to discern these things. And that can come later on a little bit. You should study tones throughout, but in the beginning you should be worried more about grammar and things like that. Anyway, next, watch Chinese movies all the time. Listen to Chinese music all the time. You're gonna have to make sacrifices. you need to stop doing the things that you usually do in your language and force yourself to be uncomfortable in the Chinese environment. Chinify yourself, Sinify yourself. You are now Chinese. You will start thinking in Chinese, and that's the most important method, is starting to think in Chinese. So, sum it up, Pimsleur's, to get your grammar down. You can use programs for vocabulary after that, but go out and meet people. Speak Chinese all the time. I'm gonna get married there. Speak Chinese all the time. And another important piece, make Chinese friends. And Sinify yourself. Surround yourself with Chinese language materials at all times, during the day, during the night. Anytime you do anything, it's in Chinese. Eventually, after about, I don't know, 2-3 years, you'll be in a situation where you can get yourself around pretty much every situation available. Now, to talk a little bit about my Chinese level in the beginning, when I first came here, like I said, nothing. Numbers is about it. Hey, Maserati! Who said China's poor, right? Anyway, oh no, I'm about to go the wrong way down the road. Anyway, to my Chinese level in the beginning, my Chinese is non-existent. 6 months in, I could order food, I could talk about myself. 1 year in, I could have fully Chinese days with people and not understand everything, but socially not be too awkward. Year 2, I buckled down, studied about 8 hours a day in Taiwan. After Taiwan, I was pretty much in the green. I could do whatever I want. 3rd year, Inner Mongolia, solidified everything to where I was thinking in Chinese. I was Chinese. People treated me like a Chinese person because I didn't have that accent anymore. I didn't sound like a foreigner. I didn't at all. I need to turn around here. I don't know what I'm doing down here. Look at what you can do in China. Oh my goodness, I just went a third road. Okay. I'm going to turn around right in the middle of the road. Nobody even bats an eyelid. And now I'm more or less fluent in conversation. Chinese characters, on the other hand, a very, very different topic. Chinese characters are the hardest writing system in the world, more or less. Don't quote me on that, but I think it is, from my experience. They're pictographs. Every stroke creates a different character, which is a different picture, which sometimes has nothing to do with the actual word. This is wicked frustrating and very difficult. You can actually, because they use 2 different parts of your brain, actually be completely illiterate but fluent in spoken Chinese. And I'm sorry to admit this, but I more or less am. I can read about 5,000 characters, which is pretty good. I can read most things, but I can't read anything in too much depth. Books, things like that, most of them are out of the question. If they're about, especially about a topic that I'm not too familiar with. Characters are that difficult. The ANKI, the flashcard program, is a very good method for that thing that I mentioned before. And a lot of people say, well, first I'm going to learn the language and then I'm going to learn the characters. Don't be like me. I would say learn them together. Hey, the Maserati again. Let's follow him. Ooh, I want to hear that. Oh yeah, listen to that sexy car. You effing fools. Anyway, it's pretty cool. Anyway, so learn them together. It'll slow down your progress a little bit, but when you can read the written word everywhere, it'll help you learn new words and new sentence structures. So I recommend learning them together. All in all, you need to work really hard to study a language, no matter what language it is. This is kind of a how-to to learn any language. Get your grammar down, get your vocab down, make a lot of friends, surround yourself in the environment, possibly move to the country that you're in. Because I can promise you right now, the Chinese majors that I know back home in America are not even, I mean, after 4 years in graduation, they can read a bit more than I could in the first couple of years in China for me, but they are absolutely zero, nowhere near my level now. Absolutely not even close. Probably about my spoken level after a year in China studying by myself and being around the language. So there's really no substitute for actually living here and studying while you're here. But it's not a bad idea necessarily to learn as much as you can before you come. That's never a bad idea. To have that in your pocket when you come here, it's that much easier to grab. So anyway, that's my little my little snippet on learning Chinese. It's a very difficult language, one of the most difficult languages in the world. It's actually a level 4 language on the U.S. military language chart, which means it will take more than 2 or 3 years of constant studying to become fluent in. Something I want to add though is that you don't necessarily have to grind that hard though. You can get to a level after a year to where you're pretty comfortable in most situations, and you can kind of ride it out for a while after that. Things will snowball, but I don't know how to emphasize this more. What's up, girl? I don't know how to emphasize this more. It's very important. Wow, it's a beautiful clip. It's very important that you get your grammar down. You must get your grammar down. It's very, very important.